BrewCraic, zibba-dooba-dooba, BrewCraic.
So who do we have with us today?
My name is Paul, and I'm the co-founder, owner, and managing director here at Cloudwater.
Okay, and so today we've had a great trip across the UK so far, taking Strata lots to some of the most important and amazing brewers in the UK. So we kind of want to talk about Strata today and your experience with it. And obviously, this is the second year it's been used in any meaningful way in both the UK and Europe. 2 harvests ago, I think only 5 tons was available to the entirety of every brewer in many countries. And last year, it picked up a little bit, but there have been a few brewers, especially yourselves, that from the beginning have latched on to Strata as something they wanted as a part of their hop portfolio.
Yeah.
What was it for you that made you want to latch on to a brand new hop?
We take a lot from the enthusiasm of our customer base. So we know when we refer to ourselves just as drinkers for a minute, clocking off work, going to the pub, we're always really excited to see beers made with new ingredients, rolling through various different gatherings like Craft Brewers Conference and getting samples and trying pilot batches of beer. We always get a sense that there's lots of development happening, and essentially I think one of the reasons why we feel really excited to embrace lots that stand out to us, or indeed in this case varietals that stand out to us, is brewers often take all the credit for IPAs and for the world of craft beer. But actually, if it wasn't for all of the work that's being done in the fields, in varietal development, we wouldn't have the tools that are shaping the industry to become what it is now, what it will be in the short-term future, and hopefully this is giving us all a platform to build on in the long term. So to see the kind of appetite for change and development all the way back to field work and varietal development, we need to feel that end of the excitement, and also the end of the excitement that's customers like, holy shit, is this going to be a new flavor combination that I can get my head around? Yes, it is. Let us take it in. Let us do some good work with it and figure out how it is that we're going to fit this new varietal into our portfolio. Where is it going to sit? How is it going to change our relationship with all the other hops that we buy? Because that happens as well.
Yeah, and where in your portfolio does Strata sit? It seems like the brewers that have latched onto it are brewers that have found what's unique about it and situated alongside Citra Mosaic, and made it a core thing. Where in your portfolio, what holes does it fill that other hops didn't put there for you?
Yeah, so obviously as time's gone on and beer's become a bit sort of softer, juicier, more tropical, it's really good to have elements in your hop portfolio that stand out and lift themselves outside of that mix. And you just mentioned Citra. It's really probably our favorite hop, but it kind of gets lost in the mix of all of the modern yeast, ester forward yeasts that we work with. So when you've got that baseline now that is so fruity and so tropical, you need hops that are going to just pull themselves head above water and say, I am here, even in low doses. And give you something to work alongside hops that now start to feel a little bit more like their foundation builders, rather than necessarily headline acts.
Right.
So, Strata for us, it's a standout hop. It's a feature hop. That's how we call it. Yes, you can build with it. All the way back to Whirlpool editions and early dry hops. But for us, it's a great hop to bring a bit of difference to an otherwise quite kind of rounded expression that we can get from using some of the varietals that have been in the market now upwards of 10 years. It just really gives us the option to take a recipe that we really love, quite literally sort of spice it up, vary it a little bit, bring it to the marketplace with that twist. And customers are going to absolutely be thrilled time after time.
So we were doing selection today, and we were having an interesting conversation about the way you approach selection.
Yeah.
And not every brewer gets the opportunity for selection, but can you just talk us through what your steps are in finding out the lot that you like?
Yeah, so my process typically starts with trying to look for flaws first. So if there's anything that comes off those lot samples that gives me something that I probably don't want to exist in a particularly potent way in the finished beer, that's going to be a kind of elimination effort, and sometimes that's really hard because sometimes everything is essentially flawless, and then you really switch to the next stage of the selection process, which is looking at those positive characteristics. And I do that in two particular ways. So I look at, first of all, what's the first thing that jumps out at me? How do we analyze that initial impact? And then I like to come back to the samples over minutes and see what we're left with on the previously rubbed sort of like piles of cones that are all broken up. What are they still delivering some minutes in when some of that initial aromatic impact is kind of softened a bit?
Right.
So for me, that feels like a pretty reliable process of getting rid of anything that I don't want to make an appearance in our beer. And again, specifically when it comes to varietals like Strata, where I know we're looking to put them in a headline role or a feature role in our beer, I definitely don't want that to bring anything that's too sulfurous, too grassy, too vegetal. I want cleanness, and then I'm looking for that combination of impact, but also breadth and depth of aroma too.
Right.
So I like to go around the table a lot. I like to go back to the lots that I've moved away and put to one side as probably not interested in them, and just keep making sure, what am I getting?
Right.
Is there something that I can find in those lots that I should reconsider, especially now that they've all opened up a little bit? So yeah, it's for me, it's absolutely essential to have that selection process. It's one of the reasons, actually the reason why we are the scale brewery we are is to use enough hops to be able to buy enough to select them. Like we are quite literally that size so that we can buy selection quantities of hops. And that's always been our ambitions. As soon as we found out that, okay, I need to buy how much to get around that table.
Let's get to be that size.
Let's make that happen. And now it's a question of, we don't want to cut too many options off, but also we definitely want to be selecting everything that we use, because we've got preferences to, again, reward innovation and support innovation in the industry, and also keep things moving, keep things fresh. We don't particularly look for exactly the same features year after year. Quite happy to come to selection completely open-minded and say, hey, what are we going to be presented with this year? And how can we make the most of that?
Which that perfectly segues into my next question. With Strata last year was the first year any UK brewery did selection, and it felt like most brewers were trying to figure the most standout lot, the one that was just smack in your face, because there wasn't a lot of experience with it. So let's see what the limits of this are. Do you feel in your lot rubs this year that you found something a little different, maybe over the course of the past 12 months of brewing with it, that you were able to identify the aspects that you want, and you went into it looking for that rather than looking for the knockout blow of just the most impressive lot?
Yeah, so there is always a temptation to just try and pick the lot that you feel has the biggest aroma impact. But as I said, that's only like really 1/3 of our process of looking at what we're going to move towards. So I think it probably takes me personally and us as a brewery years to really get our head around what are all of the characteristics that we can pull. One of the things that happens when we get a new varietal like Strata is that we're going to throw it in the deep end at dippers, triple IPAs, double dry hopped IPAs. Now that's a very, very intense application of that hop. What we will start to see from us, and no doubt other brewers, is a rather more sort of subtle, lighter touch use. So you'll probably see it come through in Pilsners, You'll probably see it come through in lower ABV pale ales where the hopping rate is reduced, and because of that, you don't have as much kind of density of impact on the beer end of the process. So that also is going to help us reveal some of the finer elements in that varietal. So yeah, I think everyone gets really excited, go to the big hitter because they're probably going to throw it in a big hitting beer. Now it's like, okay, let's put it in the mix through dark beers, through light color beers that are low in ABV, and really see across the spectrum of all the styles that we like to produce, where can we find other homes for it? And that definitely starts to change your impression of what that needs to do for you.
Yeah. Now, one thing. My last question. One thing you spoke about earlier is how Strata can be the feature hop. It can be the showcase, but it can also meld in with other aspects and other hops. You guys have brewed a lot of beers with Strata so far. What are some of your favorite combinations to go along with Strata?
I think we always love to build with Citra and Mosaic.
Yeah.
So that combination for us is a really, really steady base, especially with our preferred yeast strain, and also just with the way that we can extract flavor from those hops. So Strata sat alongside Citra and Mosaic is just an absolute win. But then also, like Strata alongside other like big hitters. And again, I'm really only talking about what's been happening in this past year, but Strata alongside Sabro is incredible. They kind of get into a bit of a fight in the beer, but everyone wins. It's a good match.
Yeah.
So yeah, there are definitely lots of combinations that seem to work really, really well. I think this next year will educate us a lot more about some of the finer and more delicate balances that we can achieve. So ask me that question when we're doing selection next year, and I'll probably have quite a different answer.
A very pointed, a focused answer.
Yeah.
Well, great. Well, thanks for joining us today. Thanks for giving us the opportunity to get these lots over to you. And here's to another year of brewing with Strata.
Thanks for coming. Appreciate it.
Yep.